One of the dirty truths, if you will, of the insurance sales business is that the vast majority of agents that come in are going to fail out relatively quickly within the first 12 months. Nobody actually has an exact number, but we do have estimates. And if you talk to different agencies, different organizations, the nonprofit organizations like LIMRA, they all suggest that somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 to 95% of all new agents fail out within the first year. That's incredible. Think of how many businesses and organizations and employment opportunities that are out there where 9 out of 10 people fail. It's not very common. So what you have to be concerned with if you decide to get into this business of selling insurance is to first soberly acknowledge the truth and reality of the circumstances that you're walking into, which is an incredibly difficult field that most people cannot be successful at. And you have to look at yourself in an earnest and authentic way to determine if you really have the stuff to be successful at selling insurance. And so what I'm going to do today is go over really why agents fail, the factors behind it, and then give you some steps to prevent failure from happening as best as you can. This is not a cure-all panacea to where I can say that you'll never have any difficulty or you won't be in a position where you will fail out. Many of you watching this will fail. Unfortunately, some of my teachings and wisdom will fall on deaf ears, but that is just the course of your life. And that's the way it is. I failed out of the business within my first year, so a lot of this is coming from personal experience. But you need to be prepared if you decide to get into this business about what it takes. And if you don't have what it takes and decide not to because you've had second thoughts, fine. There's nothing wrong with you doing that. It's better than leaving this business economically worse off than you were when you started. So let's talk about the biggest reasons why agents fail. This is a common course of discussion I have with other people who recruit agents like myself, other people in corporate insurance America that want to increase retention of agents, because retention of agents means you create the ability to keep agents in the business, to sell more insurance. People are helped out more. It's a better, longer-term strategy. So how can we overcome the failure aspect of selling insurance, and how it can help you out there who's listening to this do better and stay in the business longer? So the biggest reason I think agents fail, or one of them I should say, is there's no training. So when I say training, I mean actual sales, product, and marketing training. Many organizations start off in a position to where they just want to recruit anybody with a pulse. If you can fog a mirror, you're hired for a lot of these big name organizations. And instead of focusing on helping you develop your skill set and your mindset to sell insurance, they instead encourage you to talk to your friends, family, and sphere of influence to talk them into doing the same thing, to sell insurance. The problem is that ultimately recruiting is a great thing. But if you have no experience actually selling the product, you have no base of wisdom, you have no actual in the trenches experience with clients and dealing with problems, what really can you do to help the people that you recruit? They will see what little you have to offer and will walk away. So I believe, therefore, even if your goal is to recruit, and if it's not, all the better, your goal should be to become a good producer within a couple of years period of time. You should focus on becoming and improving your craft of selling insurance. That is the most important thing you can do. And you've got to find an organization that will train you on how to do that. Training is imperative, and there's multiple ways in which training is something that you need to get. It's not just about going out there and kind of being thrown to the wolves. A lot of people don't like that. There's some elements about that that's good. But you need to have a track to run on. You need to have some kind of sales and marketing system. What to say, how to say, a script, product selection, product explanation, how to deal with people who say no or I need to think about it. Where do you actually find prospects? How do you talk to them to convince you to sit down in an appointment with them? These are all important training points that if you don't get that up front immediately and get that refined on and fine-tuned over time, especially in the beginning, your likelihood of failure is going to increase exponentially. So, moral of the story, you got to find somewhere to go where you can get training. Number 2 on my list here is no coaching or mentorship, and this is closely related to number 1. This business of selling insurance is very similar to the Gilded Age of learning and being an apprentice, where you spend time with a master craftsman for many years learning their style of whatever it is that they're doing before ultimately going on your own and running your own shop. You don't have to have daily interactions face-to-face with a coach or a mentor, but you need to have somebody who understands where you are as a new person and then as an intermediate and as an advanced agent, and can give you tips and tricks and guide you across the way in the most appropriate manner possible. If you get involved with an agency and you don't get told, and they're not talking about coaching or mentorship or training, then you're in a bad position potentially. And not having that kind of guidance, especially brand new where everything's new, is very harmful in the beginning. We all need appropriate guidance and support to start off. And if you don't get that, not good at all. Number 3 on my list here is no system of success. So this, again, is a track to run on. We briefly talked about this. All insurance agencies that do an excellent job recruiting agents and training them have a predefined procedure to teach you about all the elements of the selling, marketing, and product process. This should all be rudimentary and basic for the recruiting organization to teach you all this. They shouldn't have to wing it. It should be a natural and specific part of the process. If you have no system of success, if you get hired into an agency and they don't know what to do with you, they just said, well, just go show up and talk, that's not good. You're going to run into problems and you're not going to have the support. There's a lot of agencies, big and small, that will hire just because they're bored. They don't know what to do, and they just kind of sounds like something's good, but they don't know how to take care of their agents. And that will ultimately be reflected in their retention process. They won't keep agents that they recruit because they don't know how to keep them and train them to be successful. Successful agents stick around. Failures, people who don't succeed, leave the business. So before you join an agency, look for evidences of success in an agency. See what the training protocol is. See if there's like a curriculum, if you will. And these are all things that your agency you are thinking about joining should be able to answer. Number 4 here is misplaced priorities, recruiting versus producing. So this is really an element of first figuring out who you are, what it is that you want to accomplish, and then finding an agency that actually is not devoted to the same skill set. Most of my readers here are probably interested in selling insurance as being their first goal. Maybe some of you also want to recruit, and you've heard about recruiting agents, and you want to build an agency, and that's fine. But what you may find is if you join the wrong organization, you're going to be in a position to where you're told to recruit first and then produce. There's going to be right there a misplaced priority. Your organization is going to be pushing for something that isn't as important as producing to you. So therefore, you're in a bad position to get started. And if you're encouraged to go recruit when you just want to sell, eventually it's going to annoy you, which is going to turn into anger and frustration. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So now we know why agents fail, and that's just a quick basic list. There's other reasons. Those are the first 4 most common reasons I've run into. Let me give you my steps to take in order to prevent failure. Kind of talked about this already, but it's worth hitting on the highlights of how to improve it, improve the success ratio. So first thing, vet your options. And when I say vet your options, when you're looking at joining an organization, make sure you take time to interview the agency. This business of selling insurance, you can actually do that. Ask them questions. What is your training program like? Who is successful in your organization? How are they successful? What kind of system do they follow? Can I do a ride-along to see what they do, what it's like? And how people answer is going to tell you a lot about if it's worth joining this organization or not. Trust me, I run an agency. I am more than happy to answer questions like that. And you can judge the character of the organization very quickly based on the style of the answers. If you get a lot of resistance, if you get people pushing back against you by asking honest questions, then you're probably in a position where you're in a bad spot in a bad agency. So vet your options very well. Find a producer-focused organization. Again, this to me is really important. I think you should first learn to sell the product you're interested in. And after you master it, year or 2 years, whatever it ends up being, and you're consistent, then recruit. Don't go to the recruitment for focused organizations because they won't care as much on skill development. Their underlying premise in the recruiting process is, hey, let's take agents on so they can take agents on, and let's enforce and encourage recruitment over production. They may say they want production, but they really are all about recruiting. You'll find that there's going to be a lack of training in many of those organizations, and there's a lot of people that unfortunately fail out of this business because they just don't have the training, and they think, oh, this whole business is just one giant multi-level marketing scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. It's a scam. So you don't want to leave this business like that. You don't have to if you take the time to try to find the right organization. Again, find an in-the-trenches mentor and upline, somebody who has gone through the personal struggles of being successful in this business, who has had ups and downs, who understands experientially how it works. You need to work with somebody who just gets it. And it's really important for your initial development to work with an experienced agent. When I got into final expense, I trained with a guy who was writing $15,000 to $20,000 in final expense a week, approximately $150,000 a year income after expenses. That's wonderful. I wish I had that. I wish every agent could have that starting off. It was bountiful in my beginning stages to have that kind of access to a good producer, a very good producer. And lastly, ask if they have a system. I believe systematically, I believe in systems when it comes to the insurance business. You need to find someone who teaches a sales and marketing system and who can recite it by heart, who understands the process. Not somebody who teaches by the cuff, randomly, without any sort of specific step-by-step procedure. You're just going to be thrown to the wolves, and you're going to end up being a statistic if that is the case. So take your time to figure out these important matters when it comes to this business as you look for an agency to join. Failure is highly likely for many of you out there, but it can be avoided if you take steps like what I'm talking about to make sure your experience optimizes your ability to be successful. Sometimes people can't be successful in this business because they don't have what it takes, and that's fine too. The important thing is to optimize everything that you can do, because there are victims of failure in this business that fail because of bad organizations that they joined, bad training, bad coaching, bad experience, and that can be overcome with time, patience, and access. I hope you enjoyed this training. If you like what you see, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, go to davidduford.com/contact. I answer all my messages there and on this YouTube channel if you'd like. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is David Duford, and thanks for watching. See ya.